Vatican City is the smallest and possibly the most unique country in the world. Although it maintains a technical absolute monarchy, the existence of the Vatican as an independent nation is more a formality than anything else. The purpose of the Vatican's political sovereignty is to enable the Catholic Church to escape involvement in temporal politics. As a sovereign nation, she can opt out of international conflicts that she would be drawn into as part of a larger power. However, this makes her economy hard to analyze according to traditional methods. The Vatican's economy is non-commercial. Most of its support comes directly from the private donations of Catholics around the world. Since the Vatican economy is largely divorced from the international trade and domestic production that underscore macroeconomics, the information relating to its economy is limited. From the 4th century until the year 1870, the papacy acquired and held territories in central Italy around the city of Rome. These were known as the Papal States, and were the precursor to the Vatican, although significantly more extensive and much more politically active than the papal government of today. The papacy moved to Avignon, France in 1309 and remained there until 1377. This period was known as the Babylonian Captivity, and it is the only time that the papacy has governed from outside of Rome. The return of the papacy to Rome and the Papal States during the Renaissance began the artistic patronage that led to the creation of many of the Vatican's most famous monuments, notably the Sistine Chapel painted by Michelangelo. With the rise of Italian nationalism in the 19th century, the problem of papal territories creating a hole in the prospective Italian nation moved to the foreground. Negotiations with Fascist Italy in 1929 resulted in the Lateran Treaty. This established the Vatican as a sovereign nation. It also allowed the Italian government to unify the peninsula and claim their ancient flagship, the city of Rome, without interfering with the papal seat in the same city. The official government form of the Vatican is absolute monarchy. The Pope holds all legislative, executive, and judicial authority within the nation. However, in order to allow the pontiff to focus on the spiritual needs of the Church, the governmental duties are delegated to a board of 5 cardinals. The Vatican has a population of 842. Most of the residents in the Vatican are priests and religious, although a small percentage of lay people reside there as well to serve in secretarial and administrative posts. The people enjoy a standard of living comparable to that of the Roman citizens living outside Vatican borders. The people are largely Italian or Swiss in nationality. The Vatican has no nationality proper to it. With a territory comprising of only 0.17 square miles, the Vatican City is the smallest country in the world. Although the Vatican is the smallest country, its GDP per capita is $21,198, making it one of the wealthiest. The Vatican's economy is non-commercial. Most of the Vatican's income comes from investment, real estate, and donations. Collections known as Peter's Pence fund a large portion of the Vatican's charitable works. Other sources of revenue include the sale of souvenirs and religious items in the city's gift shops, and entrance fees at its museums. Sales of publications and stamps also contribute to the nation's extremely small production. Small manufacturers produce souvenirs, uniforms for Vatican workers, and other similar items needed within the city's borders. All other goods are imported. This dependence on imports, funded by donations, and essential lack of exports characterizes the Vatican economy. Other sources of government expenditure include infrastructure repair, maintenance, the operation of foreign offices, and the Pope's travels to foreign nations. Donations and the number of tourists have increased in recent years, causing economic growth. However, the Vatican has not been unaffected by the recent economic trouble in Europe. As a member of the Eurozone, the Vatican uses the euro as its currency, causing it to suffer from economic hardships and inflation elsewhere in the zone. The Vatican averages 3% inflation each year, yet its currency has appreciated relative to the US dollar from 1.13 euros to dollars in 2002 to 0.82 euros per dollar in January 2015. The Vatican's dependence on foreign exports for almost all goods makes it vulnerable to alterations in the world price level. In addition, it ran a $20 million deficit in 2011. Although a small surplus in 2012 reduced the damage, a deficit of $32 million the following year caused further measures for economic reform, including the Pope's appointment of a Secretariat of the Economy to manage the Vatican's financial affairs. The Vatican's unusual economic structure and rich history make it one of the most interesting nations in the world. Stretching back to the early Church, the Vatican has evolved as it exists today after centuries of trial and error. The Pope's government of the Church presents a confusing paradox. He must govern and administer the Church in every nation without interfering with or participating in the government of any nation. In the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the Church was far more politically active than it is today. However, the infamous harm that this political involvement wrought upon the Church's execution of her mission led to her current isolation from geopolitical affairs. The apolitical nature of the Vatican renders its government more akin to that of a non-profit organization than a typical country, and its economy reflects this. Revenues take the form of primarily donations and real estate income, the funds from which are used to import nearly all the goods consumed within the city limits. This dependence on foreign trade, coupled with limited domestic production and negligible export goods, characterize the Vatican's non-commercial economy. As part of the Eurozone, the Vatican is subject to the fluctuations in that currency due to its instability in the Eurozone, and the economic struggles in Europe have affected her. However, Pope Francis's restructuring of the Vatican's financial oversight suggests a bright economic future for the nation.